Chapter 8, Technology in Training. We're going to talk about how Fire Instructor 1's use the types of multimedia tools available as an instructor in the fire service. We'll talk about advantages, disadvantages, and limitations of audio-visual equipment and other teaching aids, how to use multimedia tools, how to maintain those tools, and the use of those tools in a presentation. And we'll demonstrate and talk about how to use those tools during the classroom presentation. And we'll talk about how to clean and maintain audio-visual equipment in the field. We'll talk about multimedia tools available for the fire service instructor and identify their use in lesson plans, how to use these tools in the classroom presentations as well. Training aids have been used since the beginning of humankind. Training aids assist the instructor in training and the students in learning. These aids have evolved from chalkboards and erasers all the way up to PowerPoint, which is what we're using today. These PowerPoint presentations and other type of computer simulations. Training aids help the instructor impart the knowledge the fire instructor needs. It is your responsibility as an instructor to learn how and when to use these tools and then to troubleshoot or repair them in the field. Remember that these tools are there to assist us during our presentation. So that brings us to technology-based instruction, TBI. TBI may also be called other names such as e-instruction, internet-based instruction, or distance learning, if you will. And this tends to be student-centered instructional type method. The flexibility is highly desirable to many busy adults because firefighters often, especially firefighters that are seeking a degree, are often trying to do so in their spare time while they're at work and in the evening time. In other words, they don't have the flexibility to sit in a classroom, but they could sit behind a computer or on the internet and do certain things. Students can repeat lesson areas that they have problems with or they may be struggling with. The instructors enjoy the ability to monitor each student's participation and to be able to monitor their progress more closely. TBI method will certainly involve all students, whereas the more traditional approach may not. And certainly this is what we've been doing over the past few months. We've been forced into this technology-based type instruction. Distance learning does not require computers, modems, DVD players, or any other technology. It consists of instruction from a distance away from a training center, college, or university. Now this could be a package of printed material such as a correspondence type course, flash animation during a video conference. It could also be the virtual Zoom training and meetings that we have become so accustomed to now. Most appear to be accomplished through a combination of reading assignment, conferencing, video presentations, testing, quizzes and exams, and other written type assignments. Computer-based training provides a virtual course environment. The software will allow instructors to prepare the course materials and manage a day-to-day teaching tasks and content. Computer-based training can inform, illustrate, test, and demonstrate complex concepts in a simple way, also known as e-learning, which our use of Blackboard and pre-recording these type of lectures is certainly would be considered computer-based training. CBT terms Learning Management System, or LMS, is a web-based software that allows online course delivery to learners such as Blackboard, The classroom administration tools you can track the activities, you can track and look at grades. Uh, there's ways to communicate either through email or chat programs, and even have calendars on these type of systems. Synchronous learning is when learners are all engaged in or receiving educational content at the same time. In asynchronous is when the learners are not all consuming content at the same time. Blackboard allows you to do both of these. As an example, you can do collaborative classroom where we meet together, have a Q&A, and even live lecture, and then certain components you can do or are allowed to do on your own at your own pace. Hybrid learning, sometimes referred to as a blended or distributed learning. Some of the content is available for completion online, and some learning requires the face-to-face instruction or demonstration. And this is so you'll have some classroom or a lab for skills where you meet, uh, review, and do face-to-face things and skills, and then the remainder of the content would be online. The virtual classroom is a digital environment where content can be posted and shared. The instructors can create quizzes and assignments to be completed and tracked online via an internet-connected type computer. Webinars are online meetings. They occur in real time and usually allow the participants to share their desktop screens, web browsers, and documents live. So some of the programs out there like GoToMeeting and Zoom are good examples of this that are fairly user-friendly and easy to use. Social learning is an informal method of learning using technologies that enable collaborative content creation, including blogs. It may include social media such as Facebook and Twitter, and wikis. Instructor-led training, or ILT, means this is in the world of e-learning instructor facilities, both the in-person sections and the online component of the course. Instructors usually set deadlines for submissions, create quizzes and other assignments, and they track the students' progress, such as we do in Blackboard. Self-directed study is a prepackaged module. The students can stop and start as they desire. The progress to completion of the module is kind of on their own time. There's a time frame or limit, but they have that time to complete the modules. Submit a final score to determine whether they passed or failed that module, all without an instructor's involvement. The example online incident command courses through FEMA, the NIMS, if you will, that you guys have taken is an example of this format. So e-learning, the popularity of e-learning has grown in the past few years, and now, especially now, students they expect courses to be offered in this manner. They look for online courses as well to make their path to learning or a degree a little easier. Technology cannot replace the wisdom and the experience of your seasoned fire service instructors. That's why these programs and these components of these programs should be led by an experienced and a qualified instructor. These are simply tools to be used that we're talking about here to enhance the learning experience. Typical management systems. There's a lot of different platforms out there. Basically, these platforms will allow you to add users and to change their roles around. You'll be able to access certain course editing tools. You can turn those things on and off. Viewing gradebooks, accessing course files and folders and uploading those files. Running the activities, reports. You can discussion boards, import and backup and reset the content. All this is from the learning management system. And in the content of fire service instruction, or the context, I'm sorry, of fire service instruction, it's critical that our students demonstrate comprehension of the topics as well as the capability to perform the critical tasks. So we have to have some way to quantify, the objectives that we are presenting. And one way to do that is through quizzes. Another way is through an exam. Another way may be through discussion boards and general conversation with one another. And even the live format of these virtual meetings or virtual classrooms where we all get together, collaborate, talk, ask questions, and facilitate feedback. Combining this type of system with a traditional learning system allows us as instructors to take advantage of the power of internet-enabled learning. Also, it opens up the door for more time to spend on the lab or skill side of things. So we can offload low-level or routine items to the online system for completion and then recover classroom hours that then can be repurposed or reused for hands-on type instruction. Focus the energy on critically important skills. This blended method takes some time away from extended time away from our lecture time and allows the students to complete those areas in their leisure, and then we meet together, come together for more of a skills driven and a review type process. Combining these two types of instructions help us track all activity online and in person in a single location, accessible on the web. Programs such as Blackboard, they save and export all student data in a shareable Excel forms and formats. Gradebooks can be exported and shared accordingly with the dean. For an example, take the learning to the learners using the medium that these folks, and that's most of us today are more familiar with. And let's face it, we're all used to smartphones, tablets, and computers now. Everybody is learning to use them and actually does quite well. These management systems, it's not a replacement for a human instructor. It's not definitely not a replacement for hands-on evolutions or those face-to-face, those necessary face-to-face interactions. It does provide students with greater flexibility in completing assignments, and it's useful in meeting the needs of both the student and the instructor. In choosing such a system, questions that as an instructor you should ask: what do I want this management system to do for me? How will I support that system, the learners, and the content? How can I implement this system in an organization that is not currently familiar or using one? Who will handle administrative tasks, such as enrolling the students and those type of things? And do I need this system to speak or connect with other systems? For most of these prevalent systems, Blackboard, 51% of respondents were using Blackboard, which is what we're using now. Moodle is another at 19%. Desire to Learn, 11%. So these are, like I said, there's different ones out there that are being used. Our community college uses Blackboard primarily. Do we want to configure, maintain, and support our own system? Open source systems such as the popular Moodle learning management system are free and are low cost options. So as a fire department, say you can't afford to pay for Blackboard for an example, Moodle is one free option to us that might be helpful. Do you want to pay a third-party platform to do these tasks for you? And such a publisher-hosted system or proprietary type solution. They're out there, but they are expensive. They do cost money, and we have to weigh out that as well as, will it do what we want it to do? Is it going to accomplish, and is it going to be worth it? Is it worth spending the money, or is it worth us spending the time and using a free program and doing it ourselves? Functions of these type systems, the key functional items on the platforms is creating quizzes, assignments, delivering digital content, tracking the activity and the grades, and then communicating using discussion forums. So this is basically what we've been doing in the past few months. With creating quizzes and exams, the instructors have the opportunity to create, handout and grade assignments or assessments, if you will, tests, exams, and quizzes. Banks of test questions are easily authored or set up and imported into the systems. A lot of the vendors that we use for curriculum offer all of these formats with their pre-made quizzes and exams, if you will. Most of these platforms allow the instructor to determine the when, the where, and what type of assignment with relative ease. When you go in and you set it up, it gives you can turn it on at this date and time, turn it off at this date and time. I want it to give you 3 attempts at this time frame. All of those, there are multiple options that give you the flexibility depending on the type of exam, quiz, or assignment that you're giving or that you're setting up for the students. Security with our quiz, the instructor may set options such as randomization of the questions, browser locking, not letting you open up browsers, and that kind of thing. JavaScript blocking, which controls right clicking, for an example. The number of attempts that are allowed, like I said before, and the time limits on student access is probably the big thing. The best security is still an engaged and informed instructor. Now, and I'll say this, can you cheat on a quiz or an exam that is being administered through one of these systems? There's a lot of cases you can, but with time limits and other constraints in place, it makes it very difficult to look up every single question. And it is another form of learning when you can look up a question, and because you have to know where to look it up. You got to know what to look at and what page or chapter or all this kind of thing. Some things, yeah, you can Google on a different computer, but again, you can't possibly answer all the questions that way. So there is some different thought on the security, and you got to decide how secure that you want it. Creating the assignments, examples of assignments that are typically found in these type setups, responding to an online text-based question or essay type assignments, uploading an essay or a document for grading. So you can request the writing, which we've done a few writings in the past, and we look at it, grade it, read it, or we let you present to the whole classroom what you found out, those kind of things. With these systems, you can upload multiple documents in different formats, completing an offline face-to-face activity, but then allowing it to be tracked on the system as well. Assignments are an excellent way to engage learners, a good way to measure their comprehension of material and help foster the learning environment. One thing that we do not want to do, and that's overwhelm our learners. So keep it to a maximum of 1 to 2 assignments per week. Give time and be flexible with you have to realize it takes time to listen to the lecture, then review a little bit, then look at the quiz, or then log on and do a discussion board, and it can quickly be overwhelming. I've taken some classes that truly I would spend more time with the LMS type setup than I would have sat in the classroom, and actually did the work. But the problem, it just wasn't flexible with the time frame that I had available as an example. So that's why I chose to do online courses. Uh, we create both a course syllabus and a grading rubric type matrix. So whatever you're going to use for that point system, you're going to use percentages, you're going to use what the college normally uses. You have all those options, and you want to create a course syllabus that will give you that week by week, explanation of what the tentative of what we're going to do, and if things change, communicate that back out to all the students. Delivery of digital content in these management systems, it's an especially attractive educational tool. The classroom management tools are available. The ability to store digital documents is there. You can keep things really organized and not lose things. Most people are more computer savvy today and able to keep up with all those documents, and it and you're not printing out paper stuff, you're not carrying paper stuff around and sitting and grading a lot of paper. As instructors, we should know the host retention and the recovery policies. Should any of the content need to be uh, accessed long after the course ends. So if you're using like Moodle or Blackboard, you need to know, okay, how long is this content kept, and can it still be accessed, and those are all good questions as an instructor when you begin to head up these type classes. Tracking grades and activity. Most of these systems give us the ability to view who's done what, who's been there, when they've been there, and that kind of thing. It records, or the records can be exported into a computer in different formats such as Excel. Typical gradebook will appear much like a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet with columns and rows. I use an actual Excel one that was free that works very well, and it goes by the point system, and you assign points and it will give you a percentage and tally the grades. You may also have statistical analysis available in these systems as well. Next is discussion forums, online bulletin boards, if you will, where the users can post messages asynchronously at the same, they can read conversations and post in conversations and make a thread themselves, or create a thread and get one started as well. This sparks conversation, debate, analysis, and discussions in a manner unrivaled in a traditional type classroom. A lot of folks are a little more apt to type in information and engage in that type of conversation more so than they are face to face, especially if they don't know each other well and those kind of things. That a lot of people feel more comfortable with the chat or the typing type setup as you get in a discussion forum. So unlike the traditional classroom where there's a back row in the classroom and those people who hide out there, uh, you don't hide in an online course, but you, because of that, you do feel more comfortable in speaking out. Discussion forums can be leveraged for collaboration, employing a social learning approach. The standard forums are ones that allow all users to see all posts all the time. It's good for introductions. It's great for icebreakers. Another type of forum is a Q&A, where students will not see class responses until they respond to the instructor's original post. So this can be set up that way as well. It is excellent for receiving original replies. So in other words, you don't get the proverbial, oh, I agree with that, that's a good comment. And a lot of times in our instructions with discussion forums, the instructions will be, don't give a 3-word, make sure that you write a paragraph and it's not just agreeing with or disagreeing with, that you have some meat to the content. And another thing we got to caution with discussion forums is language. The English language, one, so proper sentence, paragraph structure, and punctuation, and then language, meaning foul language, arguments, and those type of comments. We discourage, and I usually put that in the initial instructions to discourage those things. Computer-based training and learning management systems, there's limitations, and one is, do you have the time needed to fully commit to this type of method of instruction? As an instructor, it takes a fair amount of time, and probably more time than you're going to spend in the traditional classroom, setting things up, delivering if you're doing pre-recorded lectures like this one, or if you're doing live collaborative content, or a virtual classroom, you still have to set things up, and typically it takes more time to do and set up distant learning in an LMS system than it does, to travel to a classroom and present your material for 3 hours and do paper exams and quizzes. The course is available on a student's schedule, and that does make things easier on your students. They may need to interact throughout the day or the night, so we have to be prepared to answer texts and or emails or possibly even phone calls, especially when students are having some technical difficulty accessing the system, whether it be an internet problem, whether it be a computer or tablet problem. We have to be flexible, one, and we have to be willing to interact and at some odd hours. All the rules of keeping the course interactive, challenging, and interesting all still apply. All those rules for our students, and we want to make it interesting, we want to make it challenging, and at the same time interactive. Advantage: once the course is developed, it can then easily be updated, changed, and copied. The new information and then improved upon. And especially with Blackboard, I can go in and I can change things around. Hey, this didn't work. I like all this, and this. Copy it into the next course for the next semester, and you're ready to go. So once things are pre-recorded, once you have the documents created, those kind of things uploaded, it does become easier and less time consuming. At that point, you're going to spend more time on updating and taking care of the content and managing everything throughout the course. That's where you're changing discussion forums around. You might require a paper and I have to look at every one of those, and certainly fielding questions and taking care of all of the things that come along with it throughout the course. Multimedia applications within instruction. A key element in most presentations is the use of some type of multimedia tool. Using these tools enhances the learning process. The tools effectively is just as important as knowing the lesson plan. So knowing how to use these, you just like PowerPoint itself, really complex program. You can spend an entire semester on and learning this program alone. And I highly suggest if you do any instruction that you do that, because you can do a lot with it and you can reduce the time spent by knowing certain shortcuts. Multimedia tools can be a distraction if poorly developed and used improperly. So, an example, if we were just to get up there and read each bullet point on the slide and never expound, this is not only distracting but unfair to the students. You're not getting any of the instructor's knowledge out. So if they're improperly built with the wrong colors, you don't follow some of the standard rules for slides and that kind of thing, again, it can be very distracting. As instructors, we should review any of our audio-visual portions of a lesson plan. So we should look through those if it's a presentation, if it's a digital video, whatever the case may be. Two things I will say about it: view it ahead of time, make sure files work, and have a backup. Bring a thumb drive with a backup, all of the material and content on it. If something goes wrong with a file on your tablet or computer, boom, you've got a second copy you can revert to. And if you want, you can even cloud it to a digital drive such as Google Drive, and you now have a third place. As long as you have internet access, you can also get the files if something were to go array with your thumb drive. Without access to burn buildings, technology can bridge the training gap in the experience learning. Most college students now expect a professor or an instructor to use some type of technology. Multimedia applications make it possible for students to get information easier and faster than we ever have before. Technology is now more affordable for fire and emergency services agencies to utilize. So the cost of computers, tablets, projectors has all drastically dropped over the years. And nowadays, most fire departments, even volunteer departments, have a method or a way to project. They can project. They have a computer that they can use PowerPoint and video and internet and those kind of things. Using technology effectively, we want to be effective and we want to use it to engage our students. Um, And then we faced many questions with it. Which sorts of materials should go on a PowerPoint slide? Are there limits to the amount of text you should put on a slide? Absolutely there is. And how should you arrange the material for optimal viewing? So this is what I'm talking about. We should, and everybody should, invest the time to learn PowerPoint or those type of programs and understand some of the rules of proper presentations. Like, there are some material that is not well supported and good to put in a PowerPoint presentation. You could exit out and show a video easier, especially if it's lengthy in some cases, to not embed it. There's limits to the amount of text. If you put so much text on a slide that it is so small you can't see it, and you spend 30 minutes on one slide, make multiple slides. Make it readable. Make the bullet points easy to jog the memory of not only the students but the instructor, and engage your people in that way. How should you arrange the material for optimal viewing? Again, take a class. There are lots of tips, tricks, and hints out there that will teach you how to do that. Should handouts of the PowerPoint slides be passed out before class, after class, or not at all? That's up to the instructor. It certainly does. If you print out the note-taking pages, it certainly gives you an opportunity to encourage note-taking. However, for some classes, you may have so much material that you're presenting that it may not be feasible to print all of the um, note pages, and it may be better if we suggest the student buy a notebook and keep their own notes. If you decide to pass out material, should it be in the form of printout? Should it be on CD-ROMs? Should it be on, through a website? We can use any of these materials, and we have to know our audience. Is everybody going to be able to use a CD-ROM or a thumb drive? Nowadays, we would do thumb drives instead of CDs. So can everybody do that? Are there people that need printouts? It might be a good idea to keep X number of printed material available for the 1, 2, or 3 students that you might have that might not have a computer or access to the internet, for example. Multimedia transitions between the types of media should be and occur smooth with minimal interruption. Visual aids should be incorporated into your general approach to your instruction, and you want to try to do it in a way that everything is smooth. There's many rules and guidelines to ensure that you meet the goal of teaching your classroom effectively. As of the late as the 1990s, multimedia tools used in firefighter training included only the basics such as videotapes, movies, chalkboards, or easel pads, often duplicated materials such as handouts. Audio cassettes and overhead projectors were used with the carousel, the old slide carousels, cutaway demonstrators, and other simulators. Makeshift simulators may consist of a slide projector, pictures of areas or buildings uh, that we use, you know, in the classroom, all on an overhead projector. Computer simulators can overlay smoke, fire, and other elements over a photograph that you've uploaded or an image. Using keystrokes, an instructor can change the simulation dramatically to light smoke to heavy smoke, no fire to fire to heavy fire. Digital photography can import local target hazards into the simulation. A lot of these programs, although they're neat, they have a limited use. An advantage is you can take photographs of local buildings and areas and simulate fires, so that's an advantage. It does take time to manipulate them, um, and they are effective for tactics and strategies when you start to get to the tabletop exercises. Today's students learn differently than students over the last few decades. Most students now have grown up with instant access to the internet, video game systems, and instant messaging. Their need for understanding transcends mere technology. So the need to understand the materials and the concepts presented, not the technology used to present it. The way these students learn is enhanced by technology because it is the baseline from which they can launch into an understanding of the material. Different types and various uses of multimedia tools. Each fills a specific role, and we learn how to use tools before applying in the classroom, most certainly. So take the time to master the tools, incorporate smoothly into the presentations. Enhance the instructional skills by doing so. Don't depend on multimedia tools to teach the class for you. Only depend on those for visual aids to prompt discussion, to prompt your mind, thought, and experience on each bullet point. Audio systems might be necessary in larger classrooms in different settings. You might need a microphone. This depends on the size of the class, the arrangement. I've been to places where you have 75, 80 students, you're in an auditorium, you're going to have a mic. Um, when choosing wired or wireless, consider what style of presentation that you're using. Do you move around a lot? Are you going to need to move around a lot? Or are you going to be at a fixed podium? With wireless microphones, they have disadvantages and advantages. Your advantages are they attach to the clothing, the transmitter can be hidden, it looks more natural, it definitely is hands-free, which is a plus, and you can easily move around the classroom. Some disadvantages could be frequency usage can be an issue, and then restrictions on how far the microphone can be from the receiver could also be an issue. Wired microphones, the disadvantages here, short cable, which would limit mobility. If you're a walker and talker when you teach a class, then this could kind of confine you in a short, small area. Some permanently attached to the podiums, which again would limit your mobility. And it does, because they are attached or they have a cable or wire, it could cause a trip hazard. Next is presentation programs, software programs that assist us in creating portable presentations. Each has their own features and their own benefits. Some are easier to use and more flexible than others. PowerPoint is often used by the fire service. PowerPoint is widely used. It's been out there for a while as a part of Microsoft Office, and a lot of people know PowerPoint, have used PowerPoint from high school on, and have even learned how to use that program in high school. Using PowerPoint, advantages and disadvantages is an advantage is you can embed video, audio clips within the presentation, and you can make all those transitions really smooth. Some disadvantages, over reliance on the technology. What if you can't use that presentation? What are you going to do? Did you bring the printed lesson plan with you? And we can also have what's known as the overload factor. Too much information. One of the big things with PowerPoint, too many sounds and visual effects. I don't like the sounds on slide transitions. Personally, don't use them very, very seldom. If you're going to make a cute or funny point for one slide, that's good, but don't put them on every slide. And your visual transitions as well. They can get to the point where they're very distracting. I usually keep mine pretty simple if I use them at all. Designing and using PowerPoint. General guidelines for your slide design make easier for the student to visualize the message, and we want to avoid things that are being distractions. You can use Wizard for setups and design. You can use templates through Microsoft. You can get started with a new presentation. I typically like to do my own. I'll go into the master slides, set it up, and then go from there. Fonts within the slide design, the appearance of fonts can distract or they can maintain the attention of our students. And they are and can be a critical factor in your presentation. The use of sans serif fonts, not serif fonts to enhance readability. Serif fonts have embellishments or lines or even letters, and they can um, they can be easier to read. Font size at least 24 point for the body, 36 for the headings, again for readability. Avoid color combinations that might cause colorblind students difficulty. And also, certain colors against other colors can be very distracting, such as a blue and a yellow, a bright yellow, or a blue and a certain colors of red just have a distracting appearance. So we want to avoid those. Practice projecting to review colors and fonts. So you build it, project it, and then see how it looks. If it looks awful to you, not going to look good to everybody else. Keep blank space on the slide. Do not reduce the font size to include more text. Just redesign the slide and or have slide 1, 2, and 3 like we do in this presentation for the different topics. Limit your number of words, the 7x7 and the 5x5 theory. Image selection in your design. Illustrate PowerPoint slides with images. It does appeal to the senses. It has good impact. It supports classroom discussion and it can facilitate that. And it helps students to organize the thoughts and organize their responses during question and answer time as well. Obtain these images we can get from clip art files, digital cameras, scanners, graphics programs, and the internet. We can create using graphic software as well. Now, I'll caution images that you borrow from the internet. You need to cite that properly. You need permission to use it, and if it's out there and grabbable and you have the permission, then you need to cite that. You can cite it underneath the photograph where it came from and who the photographer is, and you can also do so at the very end of the presentation in a citation format as well. Sound in our slide designs can be helpful, but it can also be a hindrance. It can be distracting. I don't use them often, but there are appropriate times that they're useful. The variety of file extensions. Be sure the computer can accommodate particular extension to your work properly. Some material may be copyrighted, and again, this depends on the source, so it's up to us to obtain permission before we include and make sure that once we obtain that permission that we cite those things. So a lot of people like to grab images, for an example, off the internet, but they don't want to do the work of citing, and this can get you in a pickle. So I personally, I'll do both, but I get permission on the ones I borrow. And you can also take your own photographs. It does take more time, but we do have digital photography now, and it makes it very easy to do so yourself and then upload those images. Videos, animations in slides. This can add realism. It can hold the student's interest. It could be great for openers. Video takes up large amount of storage space on your computer. This is something that we do have to recognize. Animation is powerful. It's captivating. It can be difficult, time consuming to produce. There are free sources that we can copy from and use. And we can also use files that have the GIF extension. Suggestions for using slides. Play a different role. The slides will play a different role than handwritten lecture notes that only you can see. They don't make them the same, or don't make them the same. Students will read slides, not listen to you. So list the major points on the slides and the important terms on the slides, and then remain on the screen as you develop each. So you would remain on the slide but discuss each bullet point. If there's important topic or content with each one, then you would expound upon that at that time. Refer to terms as you introduce each. Create prompts for group work. You may even have a slide that tells you it's time for uh, group exercise. Include audio, video, eliminate AV equipment. Streamlining technology helps the flow. So if you've got one tablet or laptop hooked up to a projector, you want to use just that if possible to do your video, to do your slide, and any other content that you may be drawing from the internet. It just streamlines things and it makes everything flow a lot easier. More is not always better. We keep that in mind. Simple sometimes better than sound and animation. We should enhance the student's understanding. Um, when using video, consider the image size, consider the speed of the processor, check the playback on the equipment that you're going to be using for the presentation as well. This is something else that it's it's gotten better as technology and the laptops and the tablets have gotten better. The processors are faster, the memories are larger. We don't run into this problem a lot, but you can, and I always encourage you to test video several times within the presentation. Uh, Give it a test run and see how it works, because it can get you. Don't give up quality for convenience as well. If if the images, the image size, and all that is going to be drastically affected, uh, it may be better to back out of the presentation and then use a better format or player. Visual projectors. Um, the advantages: they show material to the entire class. They project only one-dimensional material on the screen. Flexibility of overhead projector, and the capabilities of some LCD projector. Projectors have gotten a lot better. Most folks are getting away from overhead projectors and they're using a regular digital LCD or LED type projector now. Uh, Disadvantages are the large size and the cost, but visual projectors have really gotten that they've gotten the size down really well now. They used to be huge. Data projectors such as your liquid crystal displays, LCD projectors, or the digital light projectors. These used with video players, DVD players, computers, and visual projectors. This is what we're using primarily as the portable ones. They are very small nowadays. We can project documents, images, motion pictures, you name it, and show material to the entire class. Advantages: they project on many screen sizes. They're affordable, compact size, easy to move, easy to set up. Some disadvantages: bulbs are expensive for these. So if they're using bulbs, they are very expensive. And so taking care of these data projectors is key. Correct kinds and lengths of cables that it must be needed. So you got to have some different things available to you. Um, Startup can be complicated, but most of the newer data projectors aren't bad. Presentation may not be compatible with it as well, such as the video size. Video clips may not project properly, and so always have a plan B. The big thing is hook your computer up with what you're using ahead of time and try these things out. If I bring my own projector, but if I'm using a classroom that has a projector, I will hook into it and see if everything is going to work properly before I decide to use that projector. Videotapes, magnetic tape that is encased in the plastic cassette, the old VCRs and video cassette players, they are affordable. I'm not sure that you can get them now, to be honest with you. Uh, I think you probably can on the internet, but these are not really used anymore. The data projector of the TV is needed for viewing, and we want to consider our class size, lighting, and audio. But like I said, most things that are being used today, video wise, is digital format. Remember that videotapes are copyrighted material. Again, always get permission to copy. A lot of them are not copyable. They have Macrovision security on them, and you can't copy them. You have to use the original. Can also produce your own videos. Video cameras are affordable. Now everything is digital, or you can even do it with your phone now, and it's very affordable. DVDs, either blank or pre-programmed. They can store video clips, audio clips, files, presentations. Players and burners are used on standard PCs. These can be used to develop your own presentation as well. They do require a monitor, or TV, or a projector. Uh, with DVDs, you may consider DVD players, you may have to consider the audio outputs as well. Now, again, DVDs are still out there and can be used, but most people are not using that. They're using a digital streamable format now. Digital cameras make it easy to capture images, upload to the computers, and insert into the presentations. It's good practice to take your own photographs for a lot of your presentations. Um, digital cameras now are available at good price points, resolution changing. All this is improving the resolution. Your phones, the cameras on our smartphones alone are pretty awesome. You can use these as well. Understanding pixels, printed photos they're made up of many tiny dots of color. These dots are all arranged uh, to make the image are called pixels. In printing, pixels or the dots are measured in dots per square inch or per inch, DPI. More pixels per DPI, the sharper the image. Using digital photos within the presentation, your data projector can only project up to 72 DPI. You might be able to get newer ones now that can do better. A pixel heavy image will take up time and space is another consideration. Save images at lower resolutions if possible. It'll help create smaller files, save space and time in your presentation. Keep the higher resolution copies on hand for other viewing. Resolution can then be lowered, but remember it can't be increased. You can lower it, but you can't increase it. A flash, which refers to both Adobe Flash Player and the multimedia authoring program, is used to create content for web applications, games, and movies. Readily available in most web browsers, the popular way to add animation interactivity to web pages. There are several software programs devices can create and display flash images. Flash files carry file extension of SWF. The files are accessed as objects on web page or played in a flash player, not available on certain devices. So if you got something that's using flash, we got to remember it's not usable on every device. Always test these things. Test them out with the computer, with the projector, and the monitor. Scanners often raise copyright concerns. We must get permission to use copyrighted photos in a presentation. So again, or if you're grabbing something off of the web, again, get permission to utilize those photos. It's as simple as emailing, chatting, asking, calling the author, the photographer, and getting permission. Presentation ready programs, these prepackaged software programs can be a valuable resource. They can be used instead of your own presentations. They're prepackaged or canned is the way I call them. You need to review the material and decide, is this going to suit you? Is this going to suit the needs of the class, the students, and you as an instructor? I personally, these pre-made presentations and curriculums can be good, but they can also be not so good. And so you may choose to either add to those programs, add your own slides in, or just completely make your own presentation. You must still familiarize yourself again with the materials. Dynamic instructional tools such as it will enhance the learning experience, but it does not replace you as an experienced instructor. Overhead projectors will display materials on transparencies. Manually place transparency on the projector and view on a projected screen. Low tech can be a good plan B if your high tech devices fail. You can use dry erase pens to mark on these overheads, kind of like we do with pointers as well. Digital audio players and portable media devices, digital recordings such as iPods, phones will do it now. They're compact, easy to carry and use, and can download lectures or pictures as well. If you're using these, just know what you're using, know your equipment. Some have audio record features we use to complete class assignments. So desktop audio video editing software can be available and used to upload results to the computer system. You can store images, audio, presentations, documents, and software. You can use these other portable devices you can like an iPad, you can put your lesson plan on. You can fire that up on your iPad and carry it around with you. It's a lot smaller than a laptop. You can carry it with you and you can scroll through and remind yourself from your lesson plan. Benefits for the instructor, the possibilities are endless. Classroom performance practice, discussions, field interviews, just all kinds of different things that we can use the digital audio players and our phones and things for. Podcasts make class materials widely available as well. You can upload a lot of these formats to YouTube again as well, as easily accessible. Personal digital assistants or PDAs, computer or Palm computers and Palm Pilots. Most I don't even know if you can get a PDA anymore per se. Most use their smartphones. The smartphone has replaced all of these PDAs and these different things all in one thing. So you got your iPod, you got your phone, you got your pocket computer, all in one thing. Uh, Potential problems with these is cheating using calculators during exams, for an example, answering phone calls during class. It is always good, and I usually have in the opening uh, introductions, I'll say something to the lines of, you know, please silence all cell phones. If you have to take a call, an emergency call, please step out of the classroom to do so. I'll give a list of instructions that deal with phones. Usually don't let phones out during exams. Make them either pass them forward on a front table in the room and go from there. Tablets and tablet computers, wireless portable computers, with usually have touch screens that are smaller than notebooks but larger than a smartphone. A keyboard on the screen. It can have an external keyboard. iPads are, one of the more popular one. Features, they're just like small computers. They have internet capability, cameras, phones, ebooks, email. They can video conference, GPS enabled. Fire departments are going to be using them for fire inspections, pre-plans, maybe even gathering information during a medical emergency. Students use them to take notes, complete assignments and emails, viewing course material, conducting research during class, and receiving assignments by email, completed and returned via the tablet as well. One caution thing as an instructor here, if you're allowing folks to use laptop computers in the classroom and tablets and even cell phones to take notes, this can be a slippery slope because undoubtedly students will try to hoodoo you. And they'll be using their phone, they'll be surfing them, they'll just be doing things, not paying attention, and being disrespectful to the instructors. Please make sure that they are using these for the note-taking capabilities. And that means you just go look at it and see what they're doing. Trends is an emergency trend in many College and academy programs, they issue tablet computers to their students that come preloaded with text material, online course materials, and other interactivities to be used. Smart boards are out there as well. This is an interactive whiteboard, if you will, that uses touch detection for user input. Computer's video output is displayed on an interactive touch screen or whiteboard. The smartboard's pen is what allows the instructor to use the digital ink and then to write on the whiteboard. Material is often recorded and saved and can be viewed at a later time or even emailed to students. Satellite programs are available worldwide. Many fire stations are equipped for distance learning through FETN and PrepNet and USFA. FETN is one of the more popular ones over the years. We used to have this at work, and we maintained their printed material, but we got away from their satellite program. Virtual reality allows your students to interact with computer simulated environments. It immerses your student in control of the environment, forces feedback and interaction. Uh, there is an artificial world. The student can make mistakes and can cause injury. Simulators allow students to safely interact with hazards in controlled environment. Video games are simplified simulators, if you will. Many students are accustomed to being immersed in an imaginary world. They're used to video games. This allows students to be challenged and learn from their mistakes. Commercially available simulators provide emergency responders with the opportunity to develop skills that may include command, control, coordination, and communications. And they can be used with all type of incidents. Not the same as live fire training. It is certainly not a substitute for live training. The student applies, institutionalizes concepts before facing a real fire. The conditions can be repeated until the outcomes are then acceptable. Then we would move to live fire training. Models, we teach basic principle before going into the field. This is built by an instructor. It needs to be built to scale, incorporated in tabletop exercises as well. May be difficult for all students to see in a large classroom. It's kind of like cutaway models, building construction, where we have homes that are built at a smaller scale, and we show we show what a truss looks like, we show what a rafter looks like, we show what load bearing walls. This is a good example of a model. They take time to create and make, but they can be a very useful tool. Chalkboards and erase boards, dry erase boards used to illustrate important points. The advantage is they're easy to use and reuse. They are present in most classrooms and are fairly inexpensive. Some disadvantages is back to the classroom. You're turning your back to the classroom while writing. Allergies, asthma can be caused by chalk dust if you're using chalk. Most people are using marker boards that are dry erase. Pads and easels, large drawing pads that help emphasize material, could help with group sessions and group note taking or bullet points for the presentation. Inexpensive, they can be reused. You can tear off pages and post on the walls as well for future presentations as well. These pads and easels are flexible. You can develop before, they can be used during or even after the presentation. You can use in small group to write responsive to the activity and then to do that presentation of that activity. Usually that's what we use the easel for, is in small group. Posted for others to see, review, and discuss, used to review the information and material or refer back to while clarifying a point. So you can flip back to a certain page, boom, revert back to that point. It is important that we rewrite on these in a legible manner. Next is handouts. These handouts are vital for student retention, comprehension. A lot of students prefer handouts. However, some don't, and you got to watch because you can spend a lot of time creating handouts. You pass everything out, and then at the end of the class, when everybody adjourns and leaves, guess what? You've got a paper mess on your hands that you got to clean up in the classroom. But it can provide supplemental and additional information. Usually when I create printed handouts, it has supplemental information there. It's information that we talked about in class, but we didn't entirely view. Um, we got to weigh the cost effectiveness of our handout. So do we print the material or do we put it on a thumb drive? Do we buy a $5 thumb drive and put all the material on it, especially if we have a lot of material? Is that cheaper than printing? Using a bunch of ink? Absolutely. Students can take after the class is over. So if it's printed, they can take it with them. If it's on a thumb drive, they can take it with them and access it with a computer. How do we maintain our technology? Some vendors charge to repair, replace damaged materials. Um, you may get maintenance contracts in writing with projectors and certain equipment. Some multimedia requires less maintenance than others. The factors is how much do we use it, the cost, and all those things. We have to weigh that into the technology that we're using. With audio visual equipment, it needs to be kept clean and in good working order. Read and follow manufacturer's recommendations on the maintenance practice. Keep things, keep them stored in their cases and free of dust and that kind of thing. Software and software updates. Assure that the device has the latest software. This can affect its ability to talk with other devices. I've been in the classroom, started up my computer, hooked it up, and it would not communicate with a projector. So I had to get on and get Windows updates. Right before class is not the time to do that because it can take a considerable amount of time in some cases, and it can cause you to start your class late. Always have software updates and everything in mind and ahead of time. Some advantages to using multimedia presentation: it does enhance learning, simplifies complex information, and we use it to reinforce materials through our exercises, pictures, and words. Summarizations of previous material, and then it's easy to keep students interested. Some drawbacks to using multimedia presentations: media may fail to perform correctly. And so we've got to be versatile to overcome the glitches. The big thing here, have a plan B, have a secondary means to get to your files. Multimedia not always appropriate. It's not always needed, and it's not always appropriate for the audience or even the content. The learning experience, networking, and information. Um, a lot of students get together, and we do this in the fire service quite well. You'll have a mixed group come in to take a class, and we network. We get contact information. Especially if you're the instructor, I always have pre-printed cards ready and available to pass out, so students can they have a way to contact you if they have a question, or simply if something neat came up that they saw and they want to tell you about it. So connecting in this way is important. Students learn from one another as well from instructors and the materials. Encourage your students to learn for themselves as well. If students don't want to learn, they're not going to learn. Multimedia breaks down the resistance. It kind of helps. Using it to help students learn. Make it easy for the students to grasp the material. Select the right media. Keep information clear, especially with difficult concepts. Engage the students in involving the senses. Students can travel places that are unreachable in real life. So, your mind, your make-believe, you see this video, you look at this presentation, you hear this instructor, and you have in your mind what this is like. Troubleshooting such problems, many things can go wrong with multimedia. So you got to be able to troubleshoot it, know and practice alternatives. So work with the equipment, know what it would do, won't do, and its limitations, and have those backup plans in place. You may need to diagnose a problem and even verbalize it necessary um, for software help files. So we've talked about training aids and the simple aids, how they help us instruct and convey our knowledge. One of the most dynamic and fast changing concepts in education is technology based instruction. This type of instruction is also known as e-instruction, internet based instruction, or distance learning. The distance learning, from reading assignments to written assignments to student evaluations, all these programs include that, and a way for you to manage it. Computer-based training software enables us as instructors. We can prepare the materials, we can execute and manage the materials each day. When we're using a learning management system, which is usually web-based software application that allows us to deliver the online content and manage it. A key element in most presentations is multimedia and the use of those tools. Certainly, the use of these tools can enhance the learning process and make the instructor's job easier. We got to remember that multimedia tools can be a distraction, and they can be poorly developed and improperly used. So we have to gauge that, know our audience. Is this going to help our audience? Depending on the size of the class and the arrangement, we may need to use a microphone or some type of audio system. Just know and remember the limitations that come with that. These programs include a variety of software programs developed by software vendors such as PowerPoint, pre-canned curriculums, things like that are on the market. As an instructor, we got to be familiar with the different multimedia devices, from visual projectors to digital cameras to flash media to bringing actual models of things into class, tablets, computers, overhead projectors, satellite programming, simulators, digital audio layering, chalkboards, erasers, dry erase boards, and easels. So with any technology, maintaining the quality of the tools is important. Again, make sure everything works prior to class. If you're using a new projector, make sure you hook into that and make sure everything works, including all files, including video files. Selecting the right media application is critical to your delivery. The right tool allows you to clarify the information and present it properly to the students.